And we are recording. I am with CFO Cathy Nickerson and Council Member Steve Hogan. How are you both doing today?
I'm doing well.
Me too. Thank you.
Good, good, good. I wanted to talk to you both about finance. So first, Cathy, since we last talked, can you just give us an update of how we're looking financially, how this COVID has had an effect on our finances, how the reserve is looking, kind of how you're planning or forecasting with different financial scenarios, and the different concerns we have maybe around delayed payments or revenue and payroll as a whole.
Sure. Right now, we still have our 4-month reserve, which we built up over time. Our goal was up to 2.5, and we surpassed that with having a community that's developing as fast as it has, as well as managing that money so that we did have a reserve for the next recession. And so here we are with the possibility of one. Right now, where we're hearing the new news that we've heard since the last video is that there is still a likelihood that property taxes may be delayed, as well as some state shared revenue currently. And we are watching now that the construction, that was a new event since we last chatted, and the new construction, it has been shut down by the governor's order. And so we're expecting some of our revenues to really dip from that, as well as the possibility of, now that some people are experiencing layoffs that we may see and businesses are closed, we might see a slowdown in some of our utility billings. And so what the city's doing to try to weather through this is we've told employees you're good through the month of April with payroll. We're going to look at some options though. So right now we're building some forecasts, and we're looking at some things that we can do to weather through this. One of those things is a hiring freeze, as well as postponing some of our larger equipment purchases. And we'll be monitoring day by day to see what other actions we can take that we might want to have council consider looking at to help us get through this event and the repercussions of this event.
And I did send out to all our department heads that we are having a hiring freeze right now, so we're not going to be hiring any new folks until we understand where we stand financially. We've also put a freeze on all equipment purchases unless it's related to the COVID virus. And we've asked all department heads to take a look at their budgets and to put aside, if they can, 10% so that we can keep that in reserve as well.
Yes.
Now we have two rather big capital projects, and Steve, I got you on here as well because I just kind of wanted to talk through those from a council member standpoint. One is the roundabout. Cathy, financially, does it still make sense from a finance standpoint? Any thoughts on that?
This one is, as you recall, has a $3.5 million grant as well as a $3 million loan to it. And those are both tied to the project and are committed to only this project. And the benefit of a startup project is that it is a local construction company with employees, so it can add some stimulus to the community. So it financially, it can go straight ahead as far as makes sense financially, is what I guess I'm trying to say.
And Steve, from
So we have the money
perspective.
Yes.
And Steve, you still believe it's the right thing to do to move forward with?
Yeah, this project, both these projects that you're going to talk about have really hit the accelerator like in 2018, but they've been projects that we've been talking about for much longer than 2 years. They've been in the works for a long time. The roundabout has come before the council. I've been on the council 15 years, and that roundabout concept has come a number of times, and finally, in 2017, 2018, we came to the conclusion we needed to start taking some action. So we started moving down that road right then.
Got it. And now from Governor Inslee made a decree that city council meetings shouldn't be happening unless it's COVID-19 related or deemed necessary. And in talking with our city attorney, there is 2 contracts of land, and these are 2 rather big purchases that I wanted to discuss. In talking with the city attorney, he said it is necessary for us to have this meeting next week. Our IT team right now is diligently trying to find the best way for us to conduct that and hold that. And based that we have contracts that need to be committed to by the council by the end of next week. Is that correct, Steve?
That's right. We have to sign off.
Don't from a not following the I guess the contract, as well as some money that we put down as well for that, which is around $200,000. Is that right, Cathy?
Correct.
So how much money is this, Cathy, that the properties, it's 2 properties on the North Shore. How much money is this? I guess how much money is it? And then where does this money come from?
Sure. The first piece of land is $4.5 million, and it will be paid from bond proceeds. And the second piece is $12.5 million, and that one will be paid with a combination of the bond proceeds and some grant opportunities that will come up. One of which is we've already acquired a $2.5 million conservation futures grant, as well as 2 others that we're working toward once the purchase is completed. And the bonds therefore have a call feature that will allow us to prepay those bonds after we receive that money.
Now, when you say bonds, can you explain that a little bit more? Is that a bond that I will be paying more in taxes? Is that a bond that, where does that, what do you mean by bond, or can you kind of explain that process a little bit?
Sure. This is more the typical plain vanilla bonds that we've done in the past for some of our transportation projects, where we're actually paying it with growth revenue. This falls in line with what council has looked at in the past with growth paying for growth. So this is money that we've accumulated and continue to accumulate with real estate excise tax. When you sell your home, you pay a tax. And then the other one is from park impact fees, and that comes from new construction itself. When you build a home, you pay a park impact fee that can only be used for parks. So those are the monies that will be paying back the bonds on this project. So there's no new taxes to the existing homeowner.
Got it. And so the bonds themselves, I'm sorry, just for clarification, the bonds, we basically sold bonds to the public who purchased these, and then we have a time period that we have to pay it back. So basically we got a very good rate on a loan to purchase the land. Does that make sense?
Yes, the timing couldn't be better. It was done at a time right before the coronavirus really was, the impact of it was really felt by both the bond market and the stock market. And so we were scheduled to sell bonds that day, and it couldn't be more perfect timing. We were one of the last jurisdictions to receive record low interest rates when we sold the bonds. 2 days later, those same bonds, we would have been paying anywhere from 1.5% to 2% more than we are today with the bonds that we purchased or sold.
We got very lucky with that rate. Now at this point, then, so we have the money at this point. We can't give it back. We can't say what can we do with this money, I guess, at this point. If we chose to say, hey, we did not want to buy this property, we're a bit concerned, can we use that money for anything else, or what happens there?
We could, but we're fairly restricted. We can use it for other park projects, or we could use it for some transportation projects, but then we would have to rethink how we would pay that back, because we were targeting park-related revenues to pay back these bonds.
Got it. So Steve, does it make sense to you, again, this is going to go before the council next week, can you kind of explain your thought process or kind of give some perspective on the legacy lands, maybe on these pieces of property? I think, Cathy, you have some visuals here as well.
Okay, yeah, it does make a ton of sense to me. Basically, since 2018, we've been negotiating lands. And Cathy, can you move that into the second slide? In 2011, the zoning for this area was put into place. Now, these property owners in this whole North Shore area came to us on the council in 2004, asked to come from the county into the city because the property owners didn't want this whole area to become chopped up like many other areas in Clark County. And they wanted it to be done right. And in 2011, the zoning took place, and you can see here in this illustration that the zoning basically would have allowed housing to be built right down to the shore. And at that point, we started discussions on the council and throughout the city and with the owners of the property. That's not really what we wanted to do. Could you take it to the next slide, Cathy? We basically have been negotiating to purchase all this land along the lake so that we keep the trees, we keep the green. And as you're looking at that area, we've conserved the forest and the trees, and we'll have access to the whole waterfront for the community. And so through this process, we've negotiated with the property owners, and more or less, most of those property owners have agreed with us that this is the way, this is the legacy they want to have, that this property should be used as a area where all citizens have access. And so they've discounted many of these pieces of property to allow us to buy them. And we've got this whole thing now wrapped up. And as you were saying, Cathy, we went through Standard & Poor's and we put the bond on the market. We have the money now in hand at an extremely favorable price. And by end of next week, Barry, we need to sign the deal, or else, can you move back up to what the previous one looked like? It may end up looking like that. And so that's kind of where we are. And yes, I'm very much in favor of it. I think it's a great opportunity to make sure that we have trails going through there. All the citizens have access. The trees stand where they are. The wildlife has a corridor that they can move through and stay where they are. And it just seems like everything lined up properly for us. And once again, the payments are going to come out of real estate excise taxes when houses are sold, or for impact fees if new houses are built. So it seems very logical. I'm very in favor of it, and I think we should move ahead.
And is there a concern that if the recession, there's a lot of unknowns. There's, we've been through very tough times before. This is a few unique kind of aspects of it. One is that it's a global recession that we'll be dealing with and trying to figure out. May delay then, houses being built and being able to get that access tax or getting that tax to pay for that. What kind of happens in that situation, or what would our options be at that point?
Can I take that one, Cathy, or you want it? Part of the real estate excise taxes are tied into selling houses, Barry. And this is a desirable community. People want to live here. It's a great school system. There's great recreational opportunities. These houses are going to, when we pull out of this recession, if there is one, these houses are going to be seeked out by people that want to raise families in a good community. And so when those houses sell, when they turn over, it doesn't have to be new houses. When the houses sell, the real estate excise tax is collected, and that's what's going to be paying for these bonds. So I think that's what I would say, Cathy. What do you have to say?
And the one thing I would also point out is that real estate excise tax really and the parking impact fees can only be paid for capital projects. It can't be used for hiring new police officers or working on the streets. It can only be used for that particular purpose. So it's satisfying what the growth plan that allowed us to use that revenue was for.
All right.
Hey, Barry, can I add one more thing here?
Yep.
On that roundabout, there's 40% of that money was a grant. I'd like to throw that in and throw some kudos at people like Jim Hodges and Steve Wall and Curleigh Carruthers for getting that grant money together. That's tremendous discount for the citizens of Camas, getting pure grant money that we don't have to pay back to partially fund like 40% of that project.
No,
And now is a perfect time to do that project when we don't have school in session, because that project can move ahead a lot quicker and be done. And both these projects make sense. Turn it back over to you, Barry.
Yeah, no, the timing to get it done is very unique. And I agree as well. I think those grants and everyone that helped put that together is huge and important. And it kind of leads to, I guess, grants with this land purchase. Do we have grants associated with that, or can we get grants to help to pay for that? And is there, again, where could we get those kind of grants?
There's specific kinds of grants that are perfect for this project, and one of them, which we have already acquired thanks to Jerry Acheson and his tenacity to get these grants in place. We have the conservation futures money from this Clark County, and that's only supposed to be used for open space. So that was a perfect grant. That's $2.5 million that we'll be using. There are opportunities that we've heard from our other partners we've past, Columbia Land Trust, as well as the recreation and open space office that's from the state of Washington that will help us as well with this grant. So like I said before, this money, if we get it, will help with some of that trail system, but it will also help with paying back some of those loans maybe early and saving the city even more money.
Yeah, Barry, I'd also like to give kudos to the Buma family and the Mills and Rose families that discounted the property so that we could get that green space along the waterfront. They had other options, and also the Camas Washougal Wildlife League that donated their property. I mean, these are some pretty awesome people that have been here for generations that wanted to see this happen, and I'm glad to see it's all coming together.
No, I know there was an awful lot of work that went into it, and a lot of people working behind the scenes, negotiating, making things happen. The timing. Anything else, Cathy, from a financial standpoint, or anything from the business side of things? Any other resources that you're seeing out there? Any other ideas out there?
Sure, we're working right now with to explore what options we have available. We've heard that there are concerns out there that what can the city do to help businesses as well as some of our residents. And we are looking at what's available from the state as well as what's available from the federal government. And then we're also seeing what could we do from a policy standpoint within our own city. So we'll be bringing those options to City Council for their consideration here within the next few weeks.
That's great.
Steve, anything else you'd like to share with Camas citizens?
No, we've been through these before. Camas was here during the Spanish flu epidemic and many others, but I'm glad that, as you pointed out, Cathy, early, we were able to build up, instead of a $2 or $2.5 month reserve to handle the operating expenses. We're up to a 4-month reserve of cash on hand as we start this. We still have to manage and make sure that we're not spending too much money, but it's comforting to know that we've gotten to that point as we start this. Back to you, Barry.
Thank you both very much. And I'll just point out, Cathy is in the office. However, she is the only one in the office, and we are going through an audit right now. So she's putting together information in boxes so that the auditors can come pick it up later on. So thank you both. I appreciate it, and we will be in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.